Another beautiful day here today, another opportunity for us to show our gratitude through action, show our gratitude to the universe for another day being here. Today, let's talk a bit about what you need to know about being skinny fat. And what you can kind of take away from this video is going to be kind of how you got to where you are right now and what you can do to change it. Now, personally, I would consider myself to be skinny fat. Okay, when I was growing up, in my teenage years, I was probably more on the skinnier side, I guess you could say, like lean, but I always had like a decent amount of muscle definition compared to other people, right? I was always athletic, I guess you could say that. I always had an athletic sort of physique growing up. I wasn't one of those, big guys who was like, super, stocky and already had a lot of muscle. And I definitely, even in my teen years, once I hit 16, 17, I was definitely more on the skinnier side versus a guy who was, big and kind of bulky. But what happened was, as I was going through these stages, as I was growing and experiencing new things and, getting different jobs and whatnot, and then COVID hit, I basically, I think it was 2020 when COVID hit, something like that. I was working up at my grandfather has a small store out here in the rural area where we live in Western Massachusetts. So I live out in this rural area. Okay, we have a small town. He's got a small store, which is basically kind of like a mix of like a grocery store and like I guess you could say a gas station, right? It's kind of serves like the small town. It's like basically the grocery store. Anyways, I was working there and shit was going crazy in my own personal life with family, and basically, as I was working there, I started to develop these habits. And over time, I noticed I was developing more and more and more habits that were negative in the sense of, because I was around all of this, different types of food, and I was kind of at the point now where, I was old enough to go, get what I wanted without my mom being like, no, you can't get that. I tended to develop these habits where I would go after, sugar and processed foods. And when you combine that with a lack of training, what you get is an increase in fat, right? Because these foods are intentionally designed. Okay, I don't know if you understand this concept, and I'm not going to go too deep into this in this video, but these companies and these corporations design most of the food you see out here that's processed and packaged in such a way that it's high in sugar, high in, seed oils, and basically it triggers in your brain a dopamine response and builds neural pathways so that you are addicted to their product, bro. It's literally a drug, okay? This isn't a conspiracy fucking theory. This is this is real life. They actually, literally, you can look it up. They've literally, admitted to this, and they know this. This is not by accident. They design this food so that you become addicted. And what happens is when you're not training and you're not actually keeping track of how much you're eating, you will overeat on that food. And so that sugar, all the toxic chemicals in it, what happens is your body tries to detox and deal with all of that, but it has to store all the extra calories as fat. And so what happens is all these calories from all the processed food you're eating is being stored as fat, and then you're not training, so you're not building muscle. You have low testosterone, and so you end up with this physique, right? And so I ended up with this physique that was basically, I guess, what you could call skinny fat, which is basically, in clothes, you look kind of like an average person. You're not extremely obese. You're not extremely skinny, but, you've got kind of like the beer belly thing going on. You got a bit of a belly going on. Your arms are kind of skinny-ish. Your chest isn't developed. That's skinny fat. And it just basically means anyone who's kind of an average BMI, but has too much fat and not enough muscle. And that's a lot of people. But the way it happens is through habits. Okay, habits are everything. Daily habits are everything. If you know anything about me, if you know anything about my channel, I am all about talking about daily habits, because daily habits is what creates our reality. If you have a daily habit of going to the gym and training, of eating whole foods, okay, highly nutritious foods like steak, meat, fish, chicken, it could be eggs, maybe some veggies and fruits thrown in the mix with that, it's very unlikely that you're going to overeat. And because it's so nutrient packed, your body knows when to stop. And so it's very unlikely when you do that approach combined with training that you wouldn't be fit, that you wouldn't be in decent shape. Now, of course, in order for you to actually get ripped in the sense of like you've got visible popping six-pack abs, well, that's not really, if you think about it, in ancient times, that's not really what you would want. Like, you wouldn't want to be like starving, right? It's a sign that you're starving. Like when you have really abs that are popping and visible, that's a sign of low body fat, which in ancient times was dangerous because there was a scarcity of food. But in today's world, a six pack and abs is it's a status signal, and that's why so many people seek it, because it's actually a status signal, which indicates that you have discipline, that you have good genetics, that you've actually built muscle. And the reason why is because it's scarce. So humans value whatever's scarce, right? If you think about it, humans will value whatever is scarce. So if in ancient times food was scarce, then if you were fat, then you were actually in a higher position of status. Nowadays, food is so abundant and there's so much shit everywhere, and the vast majority of people are fat. So when you have six pack abs and you're like ripped and you're lean and you're muscular, that's a status symbol, because it's the opposite of what's normal, right? It's scarce. I think I saw statistics somewhere online saying like maybe 8 to 10% of the United States population has a six pack or has like visible abs. And you have to think a decent amount of those are just going to be really skinny guys who just happen to have, kind of visible abs, but they don't train. They just have a super high metabolism. And so your daily habits are really the foundation of everything. And if you're found yourself in the position right now of being skinny fat, or just having a belly, or just too much fat, you don't like the way you look, the number one reason is you've been putting on too much fat, which is probably happening due to the food you're eating and overeating in processed foods, and you're not training. So you're not intentionally training. You may have a job, where you're outside working, you're doing carpentry, you're doing some sort of trade work, landscaping, something active, but that's not intentional weightlifting. Intentional weightlifting builds your muscles like nothing else can, okay? Yes, calisthenics is great and everything, but if you want to do this fast, you want to make a fast transformation, weightlifting is the number one way to go. So that's why you're in the position you are right now, is it's because you've developed these daily habits. And some people might go, oh, well, how is it a daily habit? Well, think about it. The daily habit of not training, right? So it's avoiding training, that is a daily habit. The habit of eating a lot of processed foods versus whole foods that are nutritious, that's a habit, right? And then, another thing that I used to suffer with a lot too was drinking a lot of alcohol. And I can tell you right now, when you're drinking a lot, that 100% fucks up your physique, 100%. Like, if you want one quick hack to literally change your life, just quit drinking, bro. Quit drinking. The vast majority of people out here drink every single day, and look how they look. Look at what their lives are like, bro. As soon as I was able to actually get consistent with quitting alcohol, it was just a force multiplier on everything I was already doing. So that is why you're in the position you're in. So if we think about it from that angle, okay, if that's what's going on, well then how do we get out of that position? Well, we just do the reverse. We change our daily habits. When you change your daily habits, you get the outcome that you seek, right? If there's a goal you want and you change your habits toward that goal to work on that on a daily basis, then of course you're going to see a result, bro. Of course you're going to see a result. You can't not see a result, because every day you're working towards something. Just like you are unintentionally working towards, dopamine and instant gratification by eating those foods and avoiding the hard work of training. The same is true if you change and now go in a different direction, right? So the daily habits you have now are leading you in one direction, okay? Versus if you change it, your daily habits will lead you in another direction. It's not rocket science. It's not some mysticism shit. It's not spiritual. It's not, it is kind of spiritual because that's to do with your mindset and your emotions and everything. But you know what I mean? This isn't like rocket science or anything crazy. So what you have to do is you have to change the daily habits. Now, how do we do that? Well, we need to first look and see what brought us to where we were. So that's why we just went through this whole process. Okay, now we can tell, okay, we got to this position because of this. Now, how do we reverse that? Well, we got to do the opposite. So I built the habit of not training. Okay, so what do I do to reverse that and start building muscle? I need to train in the gym. It could be a home gym. It could be a commercial gym, whatever. Personally, I prefer to actually go to the gym because it's a culture, it's an environment, and there's, people to talk to and meet and socialize with. I like that. And it puts me in a sort of a flow state. Whereas if I'm at home, I'm not really feeling it the same way. But there's a lot of people who prefer home gyms, and there's nothing wrong with that because you can still lift weights, right? It doesn't matter. So that's the one habit that we can change, one daily habit that we can reverse. The next daily habit we can reverse is that of eating processed foods. Now, here's the thing, man. You're not gonna 100% reverse that, right? You're probably still gonna eat ice cream. You're probably still gonna have brownies sometimes, or pie, or you're still gonna eat bread and grains and all this shit. I still do occasionally, not very often, but I'll 10 times less than I used to. And so if you can reverse those two things, you will start to see an improvement, because when you're eating whole nutritious foods, it's kind of hard to say. When you're eating whole nutritious foods, then the interesting thing is your body starts to self-regulate because you're getting enough nutrients, you're getting enough protein. Then you combine that with the training. Just those two things right there is enough to start losing fat and building muscle. If you take anything from this video and go do those two things today and reverse those two habits, and you'll start to see results. Like, the problem though is it's not going to be that, right? It's not going to be this video or the information, the million videos that are out there about fitness, because they don't focus and emphasize on the daily habits and taking action. That's the biggest problem in this in this industry, right? The biggest problem why so many people are obese, so many people are fat. Let's say it that way. So many people are literally fat and are in such a bad position in life and addicted, is because we don't put enough emphasis on the daily habits and the mindset. That's where it all stems from, right? That's where it all stems from. Your mindset and your daily habits is where everything's going to change. So through action today, take some steps and actually take some action from this video, and start to eliminate, at least choose like one, processed food that you're going to cut out of your diet for the next week. Okay? Cut that out and replace it with some whole foods. Okay? Personally, I prefer eating, like the way I went about it was eating a lot more meat to get the protein. Okay? Because personally, I feel better when I'm eating meat. I've tried a bunch of different diets and stuff, but personally I like a higher protein diet coming from meat, and then maybe I'll mix in some veggies or fruits here and there with it, and then eggs is a big one. But basically just eat whole foods. Okay, eat whole foods and eliminate the processed foods, and you will start to notice, holy shit, I'm actually losing fat and building muscle. I'm actually losing weight. So take those two things and implement those. And one thing I want to think about is just with you real quick. A lot of people say do positive visualizations, right? And I'm about this too. Doing positive visualizations is good. But why don't we do an experiment? Why don't we do a negative visualization? Let's take yourself where you're at right now. Okay, you've got the belly you don't want. You've got extra fat. You don't like the way you look in the mirror. Maybe like me, when you were out on the beach, you took a photo and you're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I can't look this way anymore. I can't live this way anymore. I can't feel this way anymore. Maybe that was you. Maybe that's where you are right now. Imagine, project in your mind, just imagine 5 years from now, you've maintained the same habits that we just talked about, the same negative habits. Imagine what you're going to look like now. Like, if that doesn't scare the hell out of you, then I don't know what will. Because that's what happened to me. I didn't really realize it at the time, but that shit scared me, bro. That shit scared me. I saw myself in that picture and I said, if I continue on this path of eating the way I'm eating, of not training, of continuing to drink and doing all these other negative habits, I am going to end up in a really bad position by the time I'm 30, by the time I'm 40, by the time I'm whatever age, okay? Because your daily habits compound, right? Today, whatever you do today is going to happen again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and then you add all those days up into weeks, into months, into years, and you get this effect. So if you change your habits today, if you change your habits tomorrow, and you continue on that process, you will change the way you look, the way you feel, and the way you think about yourself. It's inevitable, but it all comes down to the daily habits. So if you want to go from being skinny fat, or you're just fat in general, and you want to start to cut down, you want to get ripped, you want to become that man that you've seen online, that man you've seen in movies, who's just confident, who's ripped, who's got abs. Not like it doesn't got to be a fucking bodybuilder. I never wanted to be a bodybuilder. I just wanted to be like lean, aesthetic, and muscular. And I wanted to look good, I wanted to be attractive. I wanted to be confident. Those are the things I wanted to have. And I wanted to, I just wanted to feel better about myself, And those are the two main habits that I used to reverse the position that I was in. Now, of course, there's a lot more details. And if you guys are struggling with other things, leave it down in the comments so that I can respond to it, help you out, and make more content around the struggles that you're dealing with. But that's roughly the concept, is you want to reverse the habits, the daily habits that have gotten you to where you are. If you're in a position that you don't like being in, well, it's because your daily habits led you there. So what you got to do is you have to adopt new daily habits that'll bring you in a new direction. And so really, my whole point here, my whole mission is really just to help build a community of guys who are at an elite level in society, right? That is the mission, to build the best physique we can possibly build, to get rid of our bad habits, cut out the alcohol, cut out the big four bad habits that I always talk about: alcohol, weed, porn, and the junk food and sugar addiction. Cut those things out of your life and watch how everything fucking changes. Become an elite man who can be an example of like what a man can be in society. Like, our society is so fucking weak right now. The last thing we need is another guy out there who's fat, another guy out there who's drunk and can't fucking operate because he's constantly drinking. That's we don't need that. We don't need more negative examples in society. So this is a place, this channel, what I'm about, my whole freaking mission in life is really just to share what worked for me, to pass it on to you, and to get you to actually be in a better position than I was. And so that's the mission of the channel. If you want help, if you want more help implementing this and changing the habits, and you need more help, then the first link in the description, okay? First link in the description, I have the school community. Join the school community. In there, there's a training that goes more in depth as to kind of the tactics that you can take to really change those habits, to really become that man, and to really get ripped, burn the fat, and build the muscle. As always, remember, your daily habits create your reality, so get them locked in.